The shadow of the old tree. In a small village surrounded by mountains on three sides, people lived a simple life. Everyone knew each other by name, and days were measured by changing seasons rather than by the hands of a clock. On the edge of the village, on a low hill, stood a huge old tree. People said it was older than most of the village houses. Its trunk was wide, and its branches stretched out like arms trying to embrace the sky. Children played beneath it, adults rested in its shade during summer, and travelers stopped there to recover from long journeys. But as time passed, people slowly began to look at it differently. One day, the villagers gathered in the main square. Michael, a young man in his late 20s, ambitious and intelligent, stood up and spoke confidently. "We are falling behind the neighboring villages. We need a new road through the hill. It will make trade easier and bring us more money." People murmured in agreement, but the village elder, Mr. Johnson, asked calmly, "And the tree?" "The road will pass through its place." Michael smiled and said, "It is an old tree. It is no longer useful. We can cut it down and plant another one later." The elder said nothing, but his eyes remained fixed on the ground. That night, Emily, a quiet young woman who taught the village children, sat near the tree. She felt something strange, as if the place was more than just wood and leaves. She said to her father, "I feel that cutting it down is wrong. It is not just a tree." Her father smiled gently and replied, "Sometimes we feel things we cannot explain, but people only listen to the voice of prophet." The next morning, workers arrived with axes and saws. Villagers gathered, some out of curiosity, others out of concern. When the first axe struck the trunk, a deep sound echoed, as if the tree itself had groaned. One of the workers paused for a moment, then continued. At that moment, an unusually strong wind rose, and a bird's nest fell from the branches. Emily cried out, "Stop! Look!" But Michael said firmly, "Just a coincidence." After several days, the tree fell. The place looked empty and exposed, as if something important had been torn away. The road was built, caravans arrived, and trade increased. Michael was pleased and said proudly, "Do you see? The decision was right." But only a few months later, things began to change. During summer, the heat became stronger than ever. There was no longer enough shade near the village. A small spring close to the hill dried up. The elderly said, "It has never dried up in decades." In winter, heavy floods came, washing away part of the new road. Michael stood shocked and asked, "How did this happen?" Mr. Johnson replied calmly, "The roots held the earth together, and the shade kept the balance." On a stormy night, Michael sat alone where the old tree once stood. He remembered playing there as a child and how his mother used to wait for him in its shade. He whispered to himself, "I thought wisdom was only progress. I forgot that progress without balance is loss." Michael proposed a new project. Planting dozens of trees. Protecting the hill. Slightly changing the road's path. Things were never the same again, but the village slowly began to heal. Emily stood beside a small sapling and said, "It will never replace the old tree, but maybe we can learn from it." Michael smiled for the first time in a long while. The wisdom. Years passed, the new trees grew taller, and the villagers continued telling the story of the old tree to their children. And the wisdom they all agreed upon was, not everything that can be replaced should be replaced. Some things hold their value in their silent presence. Not in the quick profit we see,